Oh, okay, you're making a racist comment right now?
People can't stand you being here.
Great.
You play games. We don't play games.
Oh, what kind of game are you playing?
I play games where you get to death.
Come back, ma'am. Come back. Count one will be 10,000.
Are you serious?
I am serious. Adios.
Karens come in all shapes and sizes, but you can always count on them to pop up when you least expect it and get outraged at the strangest possible things, like these people who were just enjoying a day at the park. In 2020, 3 different people who were just going about their day in Torrance, California were insulted by a nightmarish woman.
Go back to whatever Asian country you belong in.
Okay, race.
She quickly got the name Grandma Karen after being bizarrely aggressive to anyone with a different skin color from her. First, she went after a woman jogging in Wilson Park. She seemed to think that the woman was blocking the staircase, but I think that it was just an excuse for this attack.
Next time you ever talk to me like that, you're gonna get your kicked by my family. They're gonna you up. This is not your place. This is not your home. We do not want you here.
Then, a guy just trying to park his car in the same park. This 42-year-old dad and his 2 kids seemed too close for her comfort.
Respect. Respect people. Lady.
I can understand your language.
Respect.
It's kind of breathtaking how vile she's being.
You're
Do you
making
know
a
how many
racist comment
people
right
can't
now?
stand you being
Oh,
here?
great.
You play games. We don't play games.
Oh, what kind of game are you playing?
I play games where you get to death.
Make a racist comment?
You know what? I am not a racist person.
You just made a
But you know
racist
what?
comment.
You need to go home.
I am from here.
She quickly was identified as Lena Hernandez, 56 years old. And once her face was out there, she soon got linked to another case at an airport from October that year. In this photo, she's even wearing the same outfit.
This unfortunate incident involved an older female suspect verbally assaulting a custodian and then physically assaulting another individual who was acting as a good Samaritan.
The woman Lena attacked was standing up for the restroom cleaner, and she immediately recognized Lena's nightmarish voice when she heard it on the news. The victim, Casey Lynn Samelio, said,
"That's a voice you don't forget. That's a face you don't forget. Especially what she had done to me." Crazy lady points down at me and says, "You better not get the F up or else." And then I get up, of course, and then that's when she physically grabs my hair and pushes me down and starts punching the back of my head.
The city attorneys made sure that Grandma Karen had no place to hide.
We are looking at that aspect, that there is mental illness involved in all of these incidents.
But Lena faced her day in court. Her case ultimately went to a plea deal, pleading no contest to all the charges. Grandma Karen was handed 45 days in jail and had to do a year of anger management. But Casey Lynn Salemio wasn't convinced that this would be enough.
What she did was violent. It was a violent attack to me. So it should have been the maximum amount of 6 months.
And what kind of message does it send to other perpetrators, other people, other violent racists out there, that you can just assault someone, you can push them to the ground and only walk away with a 45-day sentence?
So be careful in Cali, because Lena's probably still walking around out there storing up her crazy anger for her next unfortunate person. It's so weird how many people just lash out over the smallest thing. In Jacksonville, Florida, during the height of the pandemic in June 2020, a woman was having a massive argument with some workers at a Pier 1 store.
Do you really need this? What do you want to do? Post it for you? How about that? Good.
That woman was Deborah Jo Hunter, a 52-year-old mom who refused to wear a mask in the store. The argument had gone on for about 15 minutes when Heather Sprague began to record it to protect the staff. Deborah spotted her filming and also turned on Heather. She got really aggressive.
I think I'll get real close to you and cough on you then. How's that?
While this was already a super gross thing to do, especially during the pandemic, Heather Sprague was also at risk from illness it could cause. You see, Heather was getting treatment for a brain tumor, so she was really worried that catching anything from Deborah's deliberate coughing could make her fatally ill.
What I recall is weeks of worrying about every little tickle in the throat. Is that a COVID symptom?
Because of the state of emergency, it took Heather a long time to get fully tested for infection and even where to go to get it. and it also cost her a fortune. But luckily, the C test came back negative after 5 days. But Deborah really had to pay for all of the stress and worry she'd caused. The police took charge and she was arrested. They charged her for misdemeanor assault. This finally brought home Deborah just how badly she'd behaved.
I'm aware that my shame and regret will follow me the rest of my life. My family has been permanently scarred. My children are continually embarrassed by what I did.
Nobody would be friends with her family anymore, and the neighbors completely ignore them.
I think the hardest part of this is that video shows me in the worst possible light on my worst possible day, and that's not who I am. And if I could take it all back.
She seems sorry, but if anything had happened to Heather because of this, it would have left her 10 children without a mom. And yes, some of those kids were adopted into the family. But in Deborah's defense, her own family had just lost everything they owned in a house fire. And it's possible that her extreme anger came from repressing all of that grief.
It just kept piling on and piling on and piling on, and I just kept trying to push it down. Unfortunately, for Miss Sprague, she was the recipient of that, and for that I apologize.
After hearing both sides, Judge James Ruth decided there wasn't quite enough of an apology from Deborah.
What concerns me, she talked about what impact it had on her children and her family, but I haven't heard about the potential deadly impact this could have had on the victim.
The judge then handed out his sentence.
So I will adjudicate you guilty, place you on 6 months probation, also anger management, and 30 days Duval County Jail.
So even wearing a mask in her own home didn't get this Karen off the hook. But these Karen attacks can really just erupt out of the blue, over nothing and without any basis in reality. Like, imagine being randomly accused of stealing a phone and attacked by someone who literally comes out of nowhere. In December 2020, a 14-year-old boy was leaving the Arlo, a fancy Soho hotel in Manhattan, when this happened. This crazy lady then started accusing him of taking her iPhone.
Oh, please get my phone back. I cannot not have my phone.
Listen, get your ass.
The woman was Maya Pansetto from Peru, California, and this wasn't even her first time getting police attention. In 2020, she'd already been publicly drunk in a Beverly Hills hotel and charged for a serious DUI.
In February, she was arrested for public intoxication at a Beverly Hills hotel. Then in May, she was arrested again, this time charged with a DUI. Her sentence included probation, community service, and 9 months of alcohol counseling.
But what she did in New York was very scary for the kid she attacked. Keon Harold Jr. is the son of a fairly well-known jazz musician, and he and his dad were enjoying some quality time together when Mia went off on him in the hotel lobby.
I mean, I don't know what would have happened if my dad wasn't there. Still kind of shell-shocked.
But she also made the mistake of talking to CBS about what she did, and she literally described herself as a super sweet person.
You're 22 years old, but you are old enough to know better.
Enough. The footage shows me attacking his son. Attacking him how? Yelling at him? Yes. Okay, I apologize. Can we move on?
It just wasn't sinking in that she'd done anything wrong, and she didn't really back down about her actions during the interview.
How is one girl accusing a guy about a phone a crime? Where is the context in that?
Mia,
what is the deeper
Mia,
story
it's
here?
not, that's not the problem. You have to at least understand your actions that day.
At one point, she did apologize, but in the lamest way possible.
I admit, yes, I could have approached the situation differently, some sort of inferior way, hurting his feelings.
But Keon's family wanted an example made of Maya. So Maya was arrested just a few hours after that interview. Even with sirens coming after her, she ignored reality. The cops tried to pull her over, but she didn't comply. She drove all the way home and then refused to get out of her car. And so,
deputies forcibly removed her from the vehicle and arrested her.
Maya finally went to court and was charged with unlawful imprisonment as a hate crime, aggravated harassment, endangering the welfare of a child. This is on top of that DUI from earlier in 2020. In court, Maya pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 2 years of probation, meaning she avoided serving any prison time for this. But Keon's dad, who recorded it all, made the point that if this had happened the other way around, it probably would have gone very differently.
If I had done that, what Maya Pensada done to my son, I'd be in jail now.
Oh, and if you were still wondering who did have Maya's missing phone, her Uber driver had returned it to the Arlo Hotel reception desk just before she decided a random teenager had stolen it. But at least she behaved herself in court, unlike these Karens. It shouldn't be surprising that the worst Karens who can't control themselves in public also can't control themselves in court. And a judge is the one person you really want to be polite to. Well, these Karens all acted like they were above the law. There was an unusual sight in court on February 24th, 2013. 17-year-old Penelope Soto from Florida was charged with possession of Xanax bars. This illegal substance can cause irritability, aggression, and hyperactive behavior. And perhaps her public defender should have checked the state of his client before she went up, because even as Judge Jorge Rodriguez Chamat starts reading the charges, it's clear that something isn't right with her.
Penelope Soto, you're being charged with possession of Xanax. B-A-R-S. I don't know what that is. What is that?
Xanax bars. That's how they refer to it.
Xanax bars.
Bizarrely, Penelope is giggling and laughing, possibly trying to be cute, but she's clearly taken something that altered her approach to reality. Nobody is that perky and flirty in court, right? There were some questions about how much she earned and what she owed in order to decide on her bail bond. But Penelope kept right on giggling.
What do you own?
I own a lot of jewelry, all right, as well as
Go ahead.
a car.
Well, how much would you say your jewelry is worth? It's not a joke, you know. We are not in a club now.
Okay, but it's
we are not in a club. Be serious about it.
I'm serious about it.
You're being very. I can see you're serious, all right.
You just made me laugh. I apologize.
It's all right. How much is your jewelry worth?
It's worth a lot of money.
Like what?
Like.
Huh?
It's worth money.
The fact that she kept on giggling made Judge Jorge pretty suspicious.
Ma'am?
Money.
Have you had any kind of drugs in the last 24 hours?
Actually, no.
Penelope might have denied it, but that couldn't have just been nerves. Could it? After that weird interview, Penelope's bond was set at about $5,000. But then she did this.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
I know the judge was being snippy, but being snippy back isn't the sanest move. He laughs, but he is also not gonna stand for any back-talking in his court. So Penelope is about to have a nasty surprise.
Come back, ma'am. Come back. Come back. Give me the paper again. Count one would be 10,000.
Are you serious?
I am serious. Adios.
The whole court kind of erupted at this, and she looks totally amazed at the consequences. But there's even worse to come. And guys, definitely don't do this in court. What happens next is not a surprise.
Come back again. Come back again. Bring him back again.
What's up?
I believe I heard you saying to...
Yes, I did. I'm not going to do
I believe you... Did you say...
Yes,
me?
Actually, I
Did you say that?
Yes, sir, I did.
Oh, you did say that?
I'm not
I find you in direct criminal contempt. 30 days in the county jail.
Her future seemed really bleak. But after 4 days to think things through and sober up, Penelope went through another hearing and had another chance to behave herself. And this time, she had the sense to really apologize.
Yes, I understand completely, and I apologize.
I know I make you laugh, but it's all right. I don't cry, I'm not a monster. Go ahead, tell me.
And I normally don't act like that.
Judge Jorge generously gave Penelope another chance and removed the 30-day sentence, but he strongly recommended therapy for her addictions. Another woman in serious need of therapy is Amanda Stiles. At a Zoom call hearing over divorce and custody, she is being asked some routine questions, and she sabotages herself throughout this important call.
Yes, sir. Get us off of your docket is what you could do. Go ahead, Lacey. Start talking.
A custody evaluation was completed, and so we have filed a motion for
blah, 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 blah.
The judge doesn't have the strongest voice, and she basically tries to walk all over him.
I need to pause the hearing. I don't have an attorney. Can you give me some time to get an attorney? I haven't had adequate time. I'm going to need one appointed by the state.
That's not an option.
Even if the court is online, you're meant to act like you're there for real.
We are now setting this hearing is for our motion.
She also represents Cody and also fucking sit there.
Okay, so Ms. Stiles, I'll unmute you in just a second. You need to let Ms. Kimball finish what she's saying, and then when you're talking, she'll let you say what you're saying.
Amanda was asked to take a psychological exam and pay her ex-husband's attorney's fees. But when asked if she objected to taking a test for she said,
I'm not going to pay for it because I'll tell you up front I'll fall for marijuana.
When was the last
time?
But
I'm happy to take it on
when was the last time you took?
I use marijuana daily. All day, every day.
Okay. The judge was quickly getting sick of her.
I'm glad to take
Stop.
Okay, go. It's going to be on his expense, but I'm
Stop. I'm pretty low key. We're in court.
Fed up with Miss Kimball.
You need to be respectful.
Bear in mind, this is a custody battle.
Not really every day, but I use it daily, if that helps you with your interpretations.
I'm not interpreting. I just said what you said.
You might notice that even the victim advocate gives up here. Then the judge asked if she would do a psyche evaluation. This went down about as well as you'd expect.
I'm not doing it, and you cannot force me to do it. You cannot physically make me go and show up and partake in anything that I do not want to partake in. Yes or no? Do you agree or not agree?
You don't get to ask me questions right now.
I'm not doing a psych eval, and you cannot make it mandatory.
I mean, clearly she needs some help. There's something missing here, don't you think?
Have you read their discovery? When are you going to view my videos?
Ma'am, you need to answer my question.
I answered your goddamn question.
The judge gives a long pause at this and warns her, so she switches off the camera before returning. She gets warned.
If you do that again, I'm gonna sanction you $100 for every time that you swear in court, because that's not appropriate. You just need to not do it.
She's been muted again, but her body language is insane. And I don't think she realizes that they can't hear her, but they still had to find out what days she could give evidence.
What dates?
Ms. Kimball, do you have proposed dates?
I can. I would propose.
And whose expense? Mine? Because if it's mine, I'm not doing it. Sanction, give me $100 fee. Woo,
Okay,
woo.
well, so I am finding you in direct contempt.
Okay, one fine.
Finding you $100.
Okay, one more try.
The 30th or the 2nd?
Yep. Which of those dates works better for you, Ms. Stiles?
What time, dumbass? 3 contempts.
The judge barely showed emotion at this insult, but he also seems to get tense, and it gets even crazier.
What date?
So that question is to you. Never mind.
I said what
I'm not
time?
gonna let you
Time,
pick.
date? You know, these
I'm
things.
not gonna let you look. You don't get to do this. for your own pocketbook, I'm muting you for, all right, I'm gonna count that as another violation.
And when she was done, the judge rounded off that disaster by saying,
for the deposition, she didn't have any objection. I'm gonna note for my own record that she opted out after flipping me off.
Maybe people act differently at court if it's a Zoom call, but somehow I think she'd be almost the same when she's not cozy at home. At least he could mute her online. In real life, I bet these next judges would have loved to have a mute button to deal with the Karens in their courtrooms. In March 2021, MARLENA Palvos Hackney from Holland, Michigan, was having some major business trouble. Her diner, MARLENA's BISTRO and PIZZERIA, was forced to close for 5 months after the health authorities reported her in late February and suspended her food license. The diner wasn't up to the safety regulations required during the virus, and even when she protested this in court, MARLENA didn't mask up. She also didn't know when to shut up.
Ma'am, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I would like to call.
Ma'am, stop.
The judge told her off, but MARLENA just kept on making the situation worse for herself, and the judge wasn't putting up with it.
I know you want to control this room, but this isn't Burger King. When the sign changes to Burger King, you can have it your way. Right now, this is my courtroom, and you will answer my questions. Stop!
And then, when the judge finally got the whole question out, MARLENA went completely silent.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury? Yes or no? Are you going to tell the truth? All right, I'll take that as silence.
Only to break the peace again a second later.
Where is her attorney?
Mr. J. Becker.
Again, say anything again without telling me you're going to tell the truth, and I will hold you in contempt of court for 93 days. You will not act disrespectful in this court. Do you understand, ma'am? You certainly may remain silent. Where is your attorney?
For this bad behavior, MARLENA received 93 days in jail and was fined $15,000 for contempt of court charges. And FYI, this is Judge Rosemarie Anquilina, the same judge who sentenced Larry Nassar, a total creep who I covered in another video.
Would you like to withdraw your plea?
No.
Because you are guilty, aren't you? The word treatment. It was not treatment, what you did. It was not medical.
She really doesn't mess around in her courtroom. In the end, MARLENA's food license was restored and she reopened her diner in September 2021. But she could have got there more smoothly if she'd answered when she was supposed to. But in far more serious cases where someone has passed away, it's unbelievable that a Karen's entitled behavior still goes on. Now, in any court case, the family impact statements are usually the hardest part to listen to. They're an insight into the heartbreaking damage that someone's caused, so how could anyone laugh when they're being read out? This Karen giggled during a really tragic case, but the Karen wasn't who you might first think. During the summer of 2017, Amanda Kosel, aged 25 years old, from Michigan, admitted that she was dangerously drunk after she smashed into an SUV. She ended the life of Jerome Zerker, aged 31, and horribly injured his fiancée, Brittany Johnson.
And then all I know is it was like a bang and everything was just over.
Even sadder, they had 5 children between them. So now, Amanda Kosel was facing up to 15 years in prison. Amanda looked totally devastated by what she'd done, and the impact statement by Jerome's sister, Darlene Zerker, was heartbreaking.
Amanda, look what you did to my life.
You ruined everything I had.
While at least Amanda is tearful, there's something else going on at the back of the court. Judge Lillard was totally shocked to hear a girl giggling in the back of the courtroom as the relatives were reading. First, she kicked out the man she saw laughing, but a woman followed him.
You can go too. Whoever can sit here at a tragic moment like this and laugh and smile when somebody has lost a family member, this is a court of law. You cannot come down to the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice and act any way you want to act.
As she went into the hall, she made even more noise. I mean, who the heck does that? And this was Amanda's mom, Donna. Amanda was still standing in front of the judge waiting for her verdict, and now her own mom was creating a huge scene. Donna enraged the judge so much that she was called back in.
Ma'am, you are being taken into custody for criminal contempt. Your disruptive and disrespectful behavior disrupted today's proceedings, and you, ma'am, are going to the Wayne County Jail for 93 days for direct criminal contempt.
Donna was facing a scary amount of time in jail for this. As they took her out in handcuffs, Judge Lillard also gave the rest of the court a warning.
These are very serious matters, and I understand you all are upset because your loved one is going to prison, but guess what? She's going to prison for the choices that she made.
Once everyone had calmed down, Amanda faced the music.
It'll be the sentence of this court that you will serve 3 to 15 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections.
That wasn't much of a shock to anyone, but I really hope Jerome's family got some closure from that. Donna Kosel returned to face Judge Lillard the next day, and after a day in jail, she definitely looked humbled. But first, the judge really wanted to explain why she'd been out of line.
Although some people might think laughing is harmless, it was only a matter of time before the family of the victim became upset or angered after that kind of behavior, and I couldn't risk some sort of a fight or some sort of disturbance going on in the courtroom.
Donna's defense attorney reported that she also had a history of panic attacks and was also on medication, but the judge was most interested in Donna's apology.
I deeply apologize for what I did. I was under a lot of stress. I'm going through some doctor's appointments today for my heart. It's just everything overwhelmed, and I deeply apologize for what I did in your court. I just needed to get out. And it's been very hard for me this year, and I know for the other family, and I'm so sorry for what I did, and I know it was wrong, and I apologize.
Have to say, she seems like she means it. Judge Lillard was forgiving and totally accepted her apology. More importantly, she didn't blame Donna's daughter for any of the bad behavior. She was also very merciful with Donna's final sentence.
So I will modify your sentence for direct criminal contempt from 93 days to 1 day with credit for time served, and you should be released today.
Despite Amanda being sentenced to 3 to 15 years in prison, she only served 3 years and was paroled in February 2020. But another way to really annoy a judge in court is to just waste their time. In this case from Detroit, Michigan, here's a Karen who's actually called Karen and known as Karen Stevens. She's attempting to get a restraining order lifted against her by her ex-attorney, Paul Nicoletti.
May it please the court, Your Honor, Paul Nicoletti appearing on behalf of myself.
That's attorney Paul Nicoletti, who's in court because of an ongoing feud with a former client.
But there's something odd here, and Judge Martha Anderson is trying to find out exactly what she wants.
Your Honor, find the case Nicoletti versus Stevens, case number 0672178-2PH.
Next, we take you inside the Oakland County Circuit Court near Detroit, Michigan. The judge is Martha Anderson.
Good afternoon, Judge. Karen Stevens, in pro per for my motion for sanctions against Mr. Nicoletti for this vexatious and frivolous PPO.
A PPO is a personal protection order. Nicoletti petitioned for it. However, this Karen got a little bit above herself.
As what? I have a motion for sanctions against...
I know that. And the purpose of the sanctions are based on what?
It was a frivolous and vexatious PPO based on nonsense. I am not stalking Mr. Nicoletti.
I haven't signed a PPO.
The judge is already confused, and this Karen just digs herself deeper.
His petition for a PPO. Let me...
Were you served?
No, I wasn't, but...
No, you may not. How can you ask to sanction someone when you haven't even been served?
That's the point.
Stevens, do not interrupt me when I'm speaking, ma'am.
Turns out you can't lift something that doesn't exist, no matter how many large words you throw at the judge. And the judge is just riled up at this point.
I have a constitutional right to be heard.
On what basis? There is no case before me, ma'am, other than the fact that you filed this frivolous motion, taking up this court's time for no good reason other than your own personal vendetta against this man. I did not issue a PPO.
I mean, you can see why the judge kind of loses it here. And the Karen pays a heavy price, like literally.
And here you are taking up my time so that you want me to chastise him and make him pay money? No, ma'am. Your relief is denied, and in addition to that, I am sanctioning you with costs of $500.
Karen Stevens was totally overruled by common sense, but she now thinks that there's something underhanded going on.
I knew it was fixed.
I beg your pardon?
I knew it was fixed.
Miss Stevens, I highly suggest that you just exit my courtroom and go pay the sanctions before I find you in contempt.
You won't believe that this Karen ended up in front of the same judge just 4 months later after a clerical error. The court only took $5 from that $500 fine. At first, Karen refused to go through with the rest of the payment.
I have my credit card, but I did file an objection and an answer to this order to show cause that wasn't properly served, didn't have an affidavit of merit.
But now, the judge just sounds like he wants her out of court ASAP.
Miss Stevens, do you have $495 with which to pay today?
I just said I have my credit card. I do not have cash.
Very well then, Miss Stevens. You may go down to the clerk's office, pay $495 forthwith to take care of the $500.
But Karen pushed back again. Read the room.
I'm entitled to know what statutes or court rules you rely on to sanction me in the first place. That's part of due process.
Ms. Stevens, do you wish to comply with my request, or do you wish me to find you?
Is it a court order? I need a court order.
Ms. Stevens, my clerk will call down to the clerk's office and let them know you are coming.
There will be no court orders, what you're saying?
Ms. Stevens, please do as I've directed you to do. Thank you.
Ultimately, this Karen ended up paying both the whole fine and Nicoletti's court fees. Sometimes you've just gotta shut up or get a real lawyer who knows what they're talking about. But sometimes even the law professionals can be total Karens. And then you get a rare male Karen. Yes, they do exist. Sometimes they're even judges. On September 4th, 2018, Kassandra Jackson was trying to get a protection order filed at a Cincinnati courtroom, but unfortunately, she missed the 8 a.m. cutoff deadline by half an hour. She began yelling and screaming, which isn't a great look, but it's definitely understandable that her emotions would be running wild. We can't hear any of what happens on the video because the court's video is completely silent, but Kassandra's screaming really enraged the magistrate judge working in the courtroom at the end of that tiny corridor. The judge, Michael Bachman, charged outside and went looking for Kassandra.
Hey, you, get back here! That's a magistrate in full judicial robe storming out of his courtroom and chasing down a woman.
Kassandra had left for the elevators, but Bachman chased her down the hallway.
Watch as he takes off after her, running through the hallways. When he finally catches up with her, he orders her back to his courtroom.
Catching up to her at the elevators, he frog-marched Kassandra back to the courtroom. And you can see here that he stops her from turning away by gripping her shoulder and forcing her around.
And when she makes a wrong turn, he puts the long arm of the law on her shoulder, steering her in the correct direction.
He tells her she'll be arrested for contempt of court and tries to sentence her for 3 days in jail for disrespectful and disruptive behavior. 2 officers go after her and she tries to get the hell out of there. She keeps resisting and gets hauled away in handcuffs. That's a lot of guys for one woman. Kassandra was then formally charged and she kept trying to resist, perhaps because she was thinking of her kids. So they put her into a wheelchair and wheeled her into custody like she's Hannibal Lecter. She was sentenced to 10 days for contempt, but thankfully this was overturned after 2 days by another judge who realized this treatment was completely unfair. Judge Batchman paid a heavy price for getting so hands-on with Kassandra. He ultimately resigned from his job. And here's another judge who really should have known better. And he also should remember that nobody in court really has a sense of humor. In Newark, New Jersey, on January 4th, 2008, Judge James Convery was overseeing a divorce case. Benjamen Taylor was getting divorced, supported by his attorney, Yvette Ramos Alvarez. And that's his ex-wife. Or she will be soon. Their divorce seemed completed up until the ex-wife suddenly requested to know her ex-husband's Social Security earnings statements, which he didn't have. Judge seems annoyed by that.
He gets his Social Security every year indicating.
The earnings statement.
He gets his earnings statement. He gets it. He gets it every year. So she asked for it. Why didn't he provide it?
He doesn't have it.
Yvette claimed that even she hadn't received one of them for the last 3 years.
So she asked for it. Why didn't he provide it?
He doesn't have it.
He threw it away?
I would presume he did.
Oh, come on.
The judge wasn't buying the story. He did a quick poll of the courtroom to ask if everyone received it every year. But Yvette claims she'd only received it once in the last 4 years. At this statement, the judge insults her.
Well, when did you become an illegal alien?
That was a very poor choice of words. She was highly insulted.
Judge, I am going to... That was a totally inappropriate comment.
I didn't mean it. I'm only... listen to me.
He tried to walk it back, but it was no good and she stormed out. Yvette did return and the judge also apologized, but she still filed a misconduct report and he was publicly reprimanded by the Jersey Supreme Court. What do you think about all these Karens? Let me know in the comments.